What can I do that others can't do? I can control a computer with my mind. I would say that gives me the ability to do stuff that other people can't do. Everything that normal people can do on a computer, generally I can do, except for like keyboard stuff. But then just being able to, I don't know, control a computer from 5 feet away. You know, something small like that, being able to control different devices, computer, phone, Nintendo Switch, being able to like do all of these things just through like a simple application. Howdy. Sorry, y'all see my hat, right? I'm from Texas A&M. We have a little tradition there. When we go up and speak on stage, anyone gives a presentation, you say howdy, and the whole audience says howdy back. So let's try that again. Howdy. Howdy. Perfect. It's just like being home.
All right, so up today, we're going to first dig into Noland's background a little bit, how you got the Neuralink, how you became the first recipient of Neuralink. We'll also, after that, do a demonstration of how the Neuralink works that we have set up for y'all to see. And then we actually have some questions submitted from astronauts asking you about how to envision using Neuralink for space exploration. And then students, you'll have a lengthy Q&A at the end. Get your questions teed up. Let's dig into it. So, Noland, can you share a bit about the journey that led you to becoming the first Neuralink recipient?
Yeah, so in 2016, I was working at a summer camp up in the Pocono Mountains. It was about 2 months after my senior year of college at Texas A&M, just kind of a regular day. A couple of guys and I were at a man-made lake with a bunch of the other counselors and just enjoying our time off, and we decided to run into the water, and got to about waist high, and then dove in, and I just got hit in the side of the head, stray fist, elbow, maybe contact with someone. I didn't do anything really irresponsible. We weren't like drinking. I didn't dive into shallow water. It was just kind of a freak accident. They both came out of the water. I woke up face down in the water. Immediately knew I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. Held my breath for as long as possible, maybe like 15 seconds, and then decided I couldn't hold my breath forever. So I like to say I took a big drink, and over the next hour I was kind of in and out of consciousness. Got pulled out of the water by a couple of my best friends and woke up on the beach in an ambulance, in a helicopter at the hospital, all the while just trying to tell people that everything was going to be fine. Just kind of how I am. And, the sort of rest is history. I was in the hospital for 4 months, learning how to be a quadriplegic, and then spent the next 7 years just trying to adjust, find ways to get by and then to better myself after a while. After lying around for about 5 years, I told myself that I wanted to, do something with my life. So I cut out all the bad things. I started finding ways to improve just little parts of my life day by day. And that led me to getting a phone call from my buddy on a Wednesday at 10 a.m. and he was already pretty drunk. So I like to tell everyone that because he hates it so much. He says that when you're day drinking, you never expect it to end up on the front page of the New York Times. But I like to make that my life's mission. So he called me up one morning and was like, "Hey, you want to get a chip in your brain?" And I was like, "I've got nothing better to do." So gave me a 5-minute rundown of what Neuralink was because I had never heard of it, and I applied over the phone with him. It's kind of a cool juxtaposition of like what my life was then versus now. I wasn't able to interface with a computer really in any way. I couldn't fill out an application online, so I needed his help doing it. So we did it over the phone. I never expected in a million years that I would get it. So I made a bunch of jokes on my application. They were like, "What do you want from Neuralink?" I was like, "An Iron Man suit, maybe to be part of the Matrix." And they seemed to like that a bit. So, I got a call back, and yeah.
Has Elon gotten you the Iron Man suit yet?
No, but I remind him every time I see him. So, and so does my mom. Yeah.
Good. Good. You're going to get that one day.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen.
What was it like waking up with Neuralink, or what was even the intake like? Can you walk us through what that day was like when you went into the hospital and when you woke up with the Neuralink in your head?
Yeah, so got to the hospital at like 5 a.m. They had basically cleared, everything for me that morning. Obviously, nothing had come out yet, so it was super secretive. They made me go in on like a Sunday morning, make sure no one was there, and got in there and, just started joking around with all the staff. All the nurses and doctors, like there was just an energy ever since I got into started doing all of the interviews and doing like the full brain scans, body scans. Everyone that I met was just so excited, and it's infectious. So that morning it was a lot of fun. Elon was going to be there. He had some malfunction with his plane, so he couldn't. But I got to FaceTime him before surgery. We talked. He was like, thank you so much for, doing this. It's a huge step forward, and you're so brave. And I was like, yeah, man, whatever. Let's rock and roll. And he was like, let's do it. So hung up and had the greatest one-liner of my life. There were about 15 people standing around me, and hung up with Elon. And I was like, guys, I just hope he wasn't too starstruck meeting me. After that, took me into the room. I asked to pray over the room. I prayed for the surgery and all the nurses and doctors. I prayed for my mom because I knew she was a nervous wreck out there. And I made a fun little joke right before going under surgery, and woke up. And I would like to say I pulled probably the greatest prank of my life on my mom after surgery. I woke up, and I talked about this with my buddy beforehand, and he was like, "You're not going to do it." And I was like, "Well, I'll be drugged up on anesthesia, so I probably won't remember." But I woke up after surgery, and I was a bit groggy, and my mom's standing over me and other doctors, and she looks at me. She's like, "Hey, honey, how are you doing? How do you feel?" And I just looked up at her, and I said, "Who are you?" And she was not very happy with that. She looked around at all the doctors and was like, "Fix my son. What did you do?" And then I gave it a few seconds. I'm like, "Oh, Mom, I'm just joking. I'm okay." So it was good, but there was a lot of excitement afterwards, obviously. I got to meet Elon afterwards, and he came in. He had on a sick bomber jacket. And, just all of the Neuralink employees, they were all really excited the first time they turned my device on.
Could you feel anything?
No, I couldn't feel anything. Still can't feel anything. Yeah, that's good. I tell people all the time that if, I lost my memory and you told me that I got a chip in my brain, I'd say you were crazy. I can't feel anything there. So they all came in and turned on my device for the first time, and everyone was really excited. They put a screen in front of me with my neuron spikes in real time, and I thought it was really cool. I started trying to make something happen on the screen immediately. So I started wiggling all my fingers and stuff, and I was just lying there, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And all of them were like, what happened? And I was like, "Okay, look at the top row, third square over, and now. And a big yellow spike was jumping up and down. I was like, "That's my index finger." And everyone started clapping. It was super unnecessary. But it was really cool.
That's amazing. And so how long did it take for you to begin to actually gain some independence using your computer?
For the first 10 days, they weren't allowed to charge the implant. There were some protocols in place to make sure that everything was fine. There was no like the temperature range was fine, so they couldn't charge it. And so for the first 10 days, I wasn't really using it on my own at all. When they first gave me the full control of it, working with them, I broke the BCI world records day one, and for 2 weeks after that, I broke that record twice a day.
What are the records?
So the record, how they measure BCI performance is a game called WebGrid. It's basically just a big grid, and you click a bunch of boxes on it as they light up. So the record before was 4.6 BPI, bits or BPM, bits per minute. It's just some sort of logarithm of how many correct targets you get in a minute. And so it was 4.6. I hit 4.6 something that day, and right now I think I'm at 9.6, 9.8, so over double what the previous BCI world record was. And then when I first used it on my own, fully independent, I think I played Civ 6 for 13 hours straight. They were so we give you probably one of the most impressive technologies in the world, and you go and play Civilization. I was yeah, what else would I do? So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's great. Do you want to show people, give them a test ride?
Yeah, sure. So you're going to have to connect me to that.
This is the very first time I've done this.
Yeah.
So I hold it.
One of y'all up front, so there's a thing up there. Just click where it says connect on my screen with the cursor.
Oh,
I can say it, but it's a bit far, and I don't want to yell into your all's ears. Might be a bit much. Yep, just right there.
So push that little button and then hold
Do that.
this.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, just like that.
So move it around a little bit and only will
I think that's good. I think I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
It is on.
It's booting up. Can you all see it on the screen? All right. So this is the Link app. This is how I interface with the computer. This has to be uploaded on the computer for me to use it. I can't just connect to any computer. It is a Bluetooth connection. So if you think about this, future applications, anything that is Bluetooth compatible, I would theoretically be able to, hypothetically, be able to connect to. I like to say that, as everything nowadays comes off the line, Alexa compatible, I think one day it'll be the same for Neuralink, where things are just Neuralink compatible. I think that'd be pretty cool. So if you guys want to see, I always like this. This is super cool. Right there. And these are my neuron spikes in real time. I think it's cool.
You're in the matrix, you guys.
Yeah, they actually have this a little Matrix version of this. I don't know why they didn't give it to me. Maybe they don't like me. So that's that. So there are 1,024 channels in my brain. The Neuralink device is 64 threads on it with 16 electrodes on each thread. That math should be 1,024, right?
Is this the raw data coming off of the device? Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's that. And then let's see what else we got here. What I love about this is I played around with this a little bit to see how far away I could still use this, because right now I'm not really that close. I'm just kind of looking around down there. I think I can still see it, but I took this thing across my house and was still moving it around, clicking on stuff. So it is super sweet. So this is say my calibration that I do. I'll do this basically once a day, just to freshen up my model. And by model I mean just cursor control. So I'll do this and make things as good as possible. Blue targets are left click. The yellow targets are dwell, so you don't have to click anything. And I'll just keep doing this for a while. Purple targets are middle click. So I have different actions for my clicks, and orange are right click. So I have different actions for my click. For my left click, I will imagine moving my right thumb out to the left. For my right click, did I say right click? Left click thumb out to the left, right click, pinky out to the right, all on my right hand. And then for my middle click, I imagine like moving my whole arm out to the side. And this is just to, I guess the reason why I chose my thumb and my pinky is because there's quite a bit of noise when you try to do actions that are like too close together. Oh, lag. It was lag, I swear. Like if I tried to use my index finger and middle finger for left and right click, like you would imagine using on a like regular mouse, there's a lot of noise. So things will get like mixed up. As I'm trying to do a left click, it might output a right click. And so it's not very accurate. So I try to do opposites. So thumb and pinky, they're as far away from each other as I can get on my hand. So yeah, I'll do that for a while. And after, a certain amount of time, my model will get better. And then I will. This is the they call it the mixer. So there are a lot of things I can do for this. So just kind of naturally with BCI, there is what they call like bias or like cursor drift. So the cursor will sort of like drift on its own if I just leave it. So if I don't try to move this at all, let's see what it does. It will. Okay. Well, let's restart this bias correction. So just kind of naturally it'll drift certain ways. So this is a bias correction, and this is just to say like if it's drifting to the right, I can bias correct and push it over to the right so it kind of corrects. This is speed, obviously, so like how fast I can move the cursor. Friction, y'all know what friction is, I assume, you're college students. Smoothing is just kind of like how smooth the cursor sort of feels, and also like the latency in like cursor command. So how long like it takes for like a cursor to register an action. So you'll see it like it's almost like being on ice, if you can imagine that. And then stiffnesses are just how hard it is to like output clicks and stuff. So that's calibration. There are like a lot of other things I can show you guys on this, but I don't want to take up all your time.
I'm curious too. Is this all, like looking at that raw data, is that all internal to Neuralink? Has this been distributed to researchers?
It is all Neuralinks. I know that they have done things with others, but I'm not sure anything that's public. So, yeah.
So there are potentially research partnerships, but on the back end.
Yep.
That's interesting. And are there any, thinking of, projects students can work on, what's sort of the low-hanging fruit, the features that you'd like to see developed in the near future?
Yeah, this is something that I've thought a bit about, because I think there are opportunities for Neuralink to like open source some things, and I believe that they are planning on doing like some open sourcing at some point. I know that they have told me from the beginning and have told others that they want to be as transparent as possible with all of their data and what they're doing. And there are things that they want to open source maybe to just get some fresh ideas in there. Neuralink is a pretty small company, and they are all doing a lot. They all have a lot on their plates. Each one of them wears many hats. And so there are some things that I think students could potentially work on if, they were given the opportunity, differentiating like the noise that I was talking about, finding some way to like parse out that information. You could find ways to better like some of the AI features on here, like predictive text or like the voice controls and voice commands and stuff like that. And then just sorting through some of the other metadata that we collect every day. I mean, there's so much there that isn't necessarily intrinsically like private or that it would need to be kept secret, I would say. That they could work on and just kind of learn from. I mean, we are learning so much, I think, like every day with this study. At like the first month, I was telling people that, what we learned in that first month, you could fill a whole room full of PhDs with. So there's just so much going on here that I think we will be seeing, I I guess, the fruits of for many, many years to come. So there's a lot that I think students can work on. There's a lot of room in this field to grow, and students, I think, may not realize how much they can like affect change like real time with this technology. We have so far to go. We're just beginning. We've only been doing this for a year. BCI is a few decades old, but with the inception of Neuralink, I think that it is going to take major leaps forward, especially it being connected to Elon Musk. So there will be a lot of opportunity for students in the future. I would just keep an eye on it and try everything you can under the sun to get into this field, because I think it's going to be kind of the new frontier.
Yeah, I'm curious too. One of the things you mentioned going through some of the different applications you interface with was generative AI. And I'm curious if there's any ways you might use generative AI that might be different from how we might use it in our daily lives, or if there's an application you've gotten particularly good at or you found it might be novel in your life compared to how we use it. Can we learn anything from you?
No. No, not really. I mean, obviously there's a lot of AI going on the back end of this thing. That alone is something that I think I take for granted. There's a lot that maybe I don't fully comprehend, like how much more I am using and relying on this technology than maybe other people. And a lot of what I do on a daily basis, whether it's using this with like the AI features or just learning about the neuroscience stuff, I swear if I were to go in and like take some classes on these things, I would say, oh, like I know that incredibly complicated like subject very, very intimately. I just didn't know exactly what like the name of it was. I didn't really know. I don't think I understand how much I know like with this technology, because with this like neuroscience that I'm learning, I think that I may not know the names to everything, but I could probably go in and get a degree on what I've learned at this point. I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of went a bit roundabout there, but yeah, you can't learn anything from me.
I got the answer right away. Yeah. Well, that's great. I also want to ask some space-related questions. So I'm a professor of bioastronautics. I study astronaut health. I went around my network this past week and asked, what questions do you have for Noland Arbaugh? What questions do you have about Neuralink? And I got a bunch of spaceflight related questions. And I also got back a statement from Jared Isaacman, he was a SpaceX astronaut, led the Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn missions. He's currently going through Senate confirmation hearings to be the next administrator of NASA. He wanted me to let you know he's really excited about the technology and he sends along his best wishes. Thank you. Yeah. So he's a fan. We also have some questions. So we have a question from Dr. Anil Menon, who is the former SpaceX medical director, and he's now a NASA astronaut. His first question, he gave me a number of them. He's wondering, would you ever want to fly to space?
Yeah, send me now. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. The Neuralink device has to operate in a very strict range according to like what is allowable in your body, whether it's like temperature and different sort of, I guess, sensors that'll go off if things are going wrong in your body. So I think that space is a really interesting place to like test a lot of this out, because it's just a much different environment and like zero gravity or microgravity or something, where I think that the device may operate at sort of a different level and a different aspect. And with the body itself, like I think it would be really interesting to play around with up there. I'm not sure that the device, like the upkeep of it, I don't know that there's much that would change in space. I could be wrong. By the way, if there are any like Neuralink people out here, I know that some of y'all were coming in. If you think I've said something wrong or anything like that, you have a better answer, just raise your hand and say you're an idiot, and I'll answer that question right. Because I'm definitely not an expert in everything, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, we do have a microphone. If anyone wants to take him up on his offer, there's a microphone over here. You're welcome to use
You
it.
have to start out with "you're an idiot" and then follow up. Yeah.
One of Dr. Menon's other questions was about spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome. So this is a condition where when you go to space, you get increased pressure in your head from fluid redistribution, and it actually pushes against the back of the retina, and it can cause vision changes and other changes in the brain as well. Do you think there's anything in Neuralink now or anything that could be added to Neuralink to measure pressure in the head and monitor spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome?
Yeah, I think so. So, for instance, the first month after my surgery, we had a little problem with my implant. They refer to it now as thread retraction. Essentially, immediately after surgery and for the following month, the threads were moving around in my brain. They weren't stable. So right now, I have approximately, where they say plus or minus 10%. So 15% plus or minus 10% of the threads are in the right place in my brain. So they were just moving around a bunch. And they solved that with P2 because they learned a lot. And the way that they realized that the threads were moving is because of the neural data that they were collecting. They just saw changes in the signal strength of the neurons, and so there are 1,024 channels in there. So if the channel one day is picking up really strong spikes, and the next day there's absolutely nothing, they can tell that something's going on there. So with that, I believe hooking up the Neuralink to some sort of biosensors, or being able to just read the Neuralink data, you'd probably have to have some sort of longevity to this, longevity studies or something. But just reading the data, even on a day-to-day basis, you would be able to recognize a lot that's going on in the brain, maybe even real time. And especially if you were to hook it up to biosensors, you could potentially understand what's going on in the body at a much higher, much quicker level. I would say there's definitely a lot in the brain that you can understand just through the device, with the data that I'm getting from neuron spikes. Something that I think we have maybe underestimated before going into the study. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be fascinating to have that data, the continuous monitoring during flight, because we know at this point about 70% of astronauts experience vision changes when they're on the ISS. Not all of them return back to normal when they come back to Earth. So being able to have continuous data for the entire duration of spaceflight I think it would be game-changing in figuring out what's causing this.
Yeah, and there's also a potential for being able to correct a lot of these things. Neuralink is also in the process of working with, starting up blind sight, giving sight to the blind through a device. And if you have, the Neuralink, the blind sight device, any of these things implanted in astronauts, even if all of these changes are happening, even if you are having issues with your sight or issues in the brain, Neuralink would be able to compensate for those things. So it's really interesting. I'd love to see some of these things be implemented.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there. So another question, this one's from Christopher Sombrowski. He was a SpaceX astronaut on the Inspiration 4 mission. He's wondering if all future astronauts should undergo this procedure.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that all astronauts should. I don't think I have that authority. If I did, that'd be awesome. But
Your recommendation.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential for Neuralink use in astronauts. Like I said, you would be able to hook up a Neuralink to biosensors and be able to register changes in the brain and different parts of the body real time, extremely quickly. You could also interact with the capsule, with the machine in a way that you couldn't say if like physical malfunctions. You could go in and run diagnostics. You could go in and like connect to it just by thought. If you had any sort of injuries, like I'm not saying you necessarily have to be paralyzed in space, but if you had any sort of issues with being able to physically get to what you're trying to, I guess, accomplish with like your body, buttons, sensors, you're trying to do anything up there, you could definitely do that with the Neuralink. So I would say it's something that they should consider. Man, I hope they let me fly a rocket someday. That'd be so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So another question, this is from Dr. Iman Jahangir. He was a Blue Origin New Shepard astronaut. His question's not related to space. He's wondering, though, what surprised you most about using the Neuralink?
I would say a few things. First is that there's a distinction between attempted movement and imagined movement in BCI. So basically, when I first started out training the device, when I first started calibrating it, doing what we called body mapping, I would like follow a animation on the screen. Say it's like move your hand to the left, move your hand to the right, push your finger down here and there. I'd do that, and eventually it would give me a pretty rudimentary like model. It wasn't very good. It was all very, how do I say, like it all made sense. All of the signals in my brain are still working. It's just there's a break in my spinal cord, not a break, a disconnection in my spinal cord. So none of the signals are going through. They're just reading those signals and they are sending it through like some AI machine learning, and it's outputting what I wanted to do. So it made sense. Like, okay, I push my hand to the left, right, and I can move a cursor left and right. The day I realized that I didn't have to physically like try what they call attempt to move, that I could just think like, I want the cursor to go over here. I want the cursor to move up or down. I want to click here. It, like no pun intended, like it blew my mind for a whole day. It was so fascinating to me. I was so surprised that it was very like sci-fi. I couldn't believe that, you could just think looking at a computer and interact with it. It was a great day. I was giddy all day. But then on top of that, like moving forward, I am really surprised at how well the Neuralink can learn my intentions. For instance, there's like a lag between when you want to move, a signal gets sent to whatever body part you want to move all the way down, then all the way back up. So something is happening like before you are wanting to move. You want to lift your hand, the signal has to go down and back before your hand moves. All of that is happening in your brain like real time. With the Neuralink, it is reading that signal. It doesn't have to travel through your body at all. And so as I'm moving a cursor, sometimes it's moving before I want it to move in certain ways. It understands my intentions at an incredibly high level. And on top of that, it's really, really capable of learning. And this is not like some Skynet stuff where it's like it's getting a mind of its own and it's learning and it's becoming, but yeah, none of that. But it's just really, really capable. And that was very surprising to me. I didn't expect that. It's really impressive, honestly.
That kind of brings me to my next question. So we have one from John Schaffner, who piloted the Axiom 2 mission to space. He went to the space station a couple years ago. He's wondering, you're talking about how it's picking up on your intentions before you've consciously realized it. And he's wondering, do you see yourself as a traveler of dimensions, someone who will transcend the current human conscious experience?
No. No, why would I see myself like that? That's odd. Yeah, not at all. I actually just did a talk at the University of Arizona. Their like consciousness studies club asked me to come, and I thought that was odd to begin with. I'm not an expert in like most of this stuff, and I don't really have a whole lot of opinion on like what it means, like what consciousness means and stuff. But I went and spoke, and I did a bit of research beforehand, and I don't know. Like I understand the interest around this with like consciousness, and even when we were just talking about it, sending like, a signal being sent before you are conscious that you're trying to do something, that kind of digs into like, there's an argument that it means we have no free will. Because something is happening behind the scenes, something is happening before we consciously decide that we want to make any action. So does that mean we have free will? This all kind of goes into consciousness and stuff, and I don't see myself in any way breaking any sort of boundaries or being any sort of like stellar traveler or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy, doing my part.
Well, maybe the next question's a little bit more down to earth. It's whether or not this idea of leaving Earth, will this require a new mental framework, and could Neuralink help with that framework at all?
I think that there is a potential for Neuralink to change how we envision what it would look like to even, say, like terraform Mars, if that's what we're talking about. I've made jokes about Elon giving me an army of Optimus robots, and I will just go terraform Mars all on my own. I'm still throwing that out there. I'll totally do it. It's an option, but it changes how I think we can envision like going about planning to accomplish some of these things that we want to accomplish. Is not even just like having different devices that we can connect to from afar, even to help us, say, like terraform, but being able to interact with like the space shuttle with a Neuralink, and what that means, like as you're traveling for years, or being able to like monitor your body real time with a Neuralink, all based on like it's like the health of your brain and what it's able to register. I think all of these things sort of add up to a different path for us, what it means to like have any sort of real chance of accomplishing legitimate space travel and interplanetary, mankind being on Mars. Like, I think it will definitely play a role, I guess is what I'm trying to say. At least I hope it does.
I hope so too. Yeah. So Axiom Space gave me another question. If you're not familiar with the company, or if someone in the audience doesn't know, they're one of the companies working on building the replacement to the International Space Station. So they're designing modules to attach to the ISS and then detach and become their own independently orbiting station. And so this question comes from their chief scientist, Lucy Lowe, and their CEO, Tejpal Bhatia. So they're currently on their next mission. They're investigating how to create a brain-machine interface, a BMI, using neural signals. They're doing this in conjunction with the European Space Agency and the Polish Space Agency. And they want to contribute to the development of advanced technologies on future exploration missions. So they're thinking about remote control of rovers, remote control of spacesuits via BMIs. So what do you think the biggest challenge would be? And you've talked about controlling an army of Optimus robots. What is the biggest hurdle, you think, to having that army, to having that control over robots and other planets?
The FDA, man. No, I think there's just not a lot of room. Well, there's zero room for error in space. And I think that BCI is not quite there yet. I mean, heck, here on Earth, I was talking with one of the Neuralink employees, and he's trying to work on giving the ability to one of the participants to control like a wheelchair like this with a Neuralink. And the way I interact with a Neuralink on a day-to-day basis, I see that, maybe one day my clicks aren't as good as another day. Maybe my velocity, my cursor control isn't as good as another day. And when I kind of equate that, like transfer that over to controlling a wheelchair, I'm like, well, like I'll try it out, just not near like a street or a pool or anything, because
Not on Mars?
Not on Mars. There's just so little room for error with these sorts of things. It can be very dangerous if the BCI is not accurate. And with so little room for error in space, I think that's a huge hurdle that needs to be bound before we get to anything like that. Having a strong enough signal that would get something like that. I don't think Bluetooth would go from orbit. I'm not sure about that, actually. Will it? Probably not. And so I know that there are like different ways that we can go about like controlling different devices, but we just need to be careful about like when we're ready to do that. I think we still have a ways to go.
All right, so we have a question from Eric Leroy. He's a research fellow at Bioastronautics, which is my nonprofit working on human health for astronauts in space. Do you think that Neuralink has any utility, or what is its role and utility for continuous health monitoring? So say, we have our iPhone app tracking all of our health data. What could Neuralink add to that app?
So right now, the Neuralink is implanted in my motor cortex. There is not, I was about to say there's not a lot you can learn from that, but there's a ton you can learn from it. And even like I was saying before, with us understanding that the threads were moving in my brain sort of just by reading data on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot that you can learn from implanting the Neuralink possibly in different parts of the brain. Even in the motor cortex, like they realized something was wrong and they had already listed out like 5 different things that it could have been. It could have been like medical issues. It could have been just something to do with the Neuralink itself. Like there are a lot of different things, but these are all brought about just from looking at neural data. And so I think the Neuralink has a huge role to play if you start expanding where you can place it in the brain and being able to monitor brain health, like day to day, minute to minute. These things I have on like an Oura ring right now, and it's measuring what like my heart rate, my body temperature, all of these things. I think that just like that has an app and it's all happening real time, the BCI can do that just as well. I think it has a huge role to play. I mean, the brain health is a huge determining factor for a lot of like issues with the body. So I think as soon as we start understanding maybe the brain a bit more and diving into this, then we can help a lot of people. We're learning a lot, and I think that as we continue to push forward with BCI, it's going to solve a lot more problems than, say, even medicine has been able to accomplish in the last, decade, 100 years. I think that biotech is kind of the future of health in general, just the health field.
So they're essentially decentralizing access to space. So traditionally, we've gone through these very centralized pathways through NASA, through governments, and they're finding pathways through private industry and sending people that way through SpaceX, through Blue Origin. They focused on Blue Origin mostly to date. Taking that concept of decentralization, what aspects of Neuralink do you think should remain completely decentralized versus is there anything that could benefit once more and more people have Neuralink from having some sort of centralized repository, either of data, of decision-making? I mean, right now there's no choice but to be decentralized. It's kind of the opposite.
There's a lot of talk. I've met with other BCI participants from other companies. Like I said, BCI has been around for a lot longer than Neuralink, and I've met with them, and there's a lot of concern about who owns our data, who owns like everything that I'm giving to Neuralink, everything from like real-time neuron spikes to all the metadata. Like there's just so much there. And who owns it? Right now, Neuralink does. This is a voluntary study. It's all theirs. In the future, when everyone has these devices and they have all this data going probably to Neuralink or other BCIs, who owns all of that? data, and I guess how do we protect the individual, and how do we make sure that security is our utmost goal with all of this? I'm not sure about the centralization, decentralization argument. I've heard it a few times. I don't really know exactly what in Neuralink will be, I guess, available to the public or will be controlled by the company or something greater as we get into like legislation and things, because I don't really know where that's going. Sort of like AI, like seems like the government is just playing catch up with AI, like legislation. I'm not sure that we can get out in front of BCI. We have a chance now as it's starting to come out, but I don't think people realize like how fast this stuff will grow. So with that in mind, I'm not sure where it's going to be, and I don't know who's going to control all of this data at the end of the day. If it's going to be solely like Neuralink, Elon Musk, their company, and no one else has any rights to it, or if it's going to be something that is legislated and other entities will have more control. It'll be stored in different places where people will only be able to access, their own data. I don't really know. And I don't know that I have like a huge, I guess, opinion on it. I just want I want people to act responsibly with it. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a tool for people to use. Humans, I guess, Neuralink's not evil. Humans are evil. Humans are good and bad things will come from Neuralink, I'm sure. I know that it's going to do more good than bad, and I guess that's where I'm coming from.
The line between good and evil is not between Neuralink and the government. It's in the heart of every man.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, with that, I'm going to open the floor up to students.
Oh, boy. Y'all already heard like all of my answers. They weren't very good. I'm not going to have good answers for you either.
I have a very specific question. So you talked about learning how to right click and all those things. Do you press the space bar or use the keyboard at all, like when you're watching a movie?
No. We haven't mapped anything to the keyboard at all yet. We just started maybe like a month ago looking into obtaining the ability to like calibrate and map like you had both hands over a keyboard. We haven't really gotten there yet. It's mainly just left, right, middle click, cursor control. And then we did work on some like typing before, but it wasn't what you would imagine typing is now, like with the keyboard. It was like I would do sign language to output text. I would hold a pencil and write letters, and it would output text. And then you train that enough, and then you just start thinking like letters, and it outputs the letter. Not at like an incredibly high accuracy, maybe like 80 to 90%, but you can extrapolate that to like, if I can think the letter A and it outputs A, can I think the letter animal and it outputs the word animal? If I think, abstract concepts, can it do that? We haven't really worked with that a ton, and the keyboard is just sort of not there yet as far as like text and stuff goes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. This is like a really, really awesome thing to be able to talk to you. So I have two questions. The first one is this upgradable? If they make a new version of the implant, are they able to take out the one you have and put a new one in? Or would you do the surgery again? So both, is it upgradable and would you upgrade?
Yeah, so the whole idea around Neuralink was to make it upgradable. That's one thing that I know Elon has spoken a lot about, is making it upgradable. So it is right now. I don't think they have like huge upgrades to it to the point where like they're wanting to go and do anything like that. I'm also in like a study, so I don't know that they would do that while I'm in the study. It is meant to be upgradable, and it would be not a super complicated procedure. It is mounted to my skull, so they like cut out a hole in my skull and mounted it. So they would just have to, peel back the skin, like take it out, and then implant a new one. I would absolutely do it again. The surgery was incredibly easy. They said that they would monitor me for 23 hours after my surgery. And I said, are you guys sure? I just had brain surgery. You don't want to keep me like more than a day? And they're like, no, you're fine. Go home. They prescribed me pain pills, and I didn't even take a Tylenol. It was so simple. I would absolutely do the surgery again. And it is meant to be upgradable, but I don't know what the next upgrade will be. I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah, and then the second bit, what specs do you want the Iron Man suit to have?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maroon and white. That's what I want. Maroon and white. Put a big ol' gig'em on the front of it or something. Make it go fast, and I want lots of guns. That's about it. But for peace, for peacekeeping, that's it. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Decentralized defense, of course.
Yeah.
From the creation, computers, we've interacted them with keyboards. And then in the late 60s, we made a huge breakthrough with the mouse. Currently, Neuralink is emulating the mouse to control computers. Do you think that Neuralink will make a new breakthrough with how we interface with computers?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to imagine where we would go from here, like what that breakthrough looks like. But I don't think anyone really knows until it happens. I think it's very possible. I think that the way that we're interacting with it right now seems like we are mimicking how to control a computer, but I don't think that is necessarily the end goal. A lot of people think that when I use the Neuralink, I, look at a computer screen and I say, open this app. When I'm playing chess, I say, pawn e4, and it moves it. That's not what I'm doing right now, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. If you think about how good the Neuralink is at interpreting my intention, it's not too much of a logical leap to go from I'm in one place on the computer, I want to do something on the screen, I know these actions that it takes to get there, and the Neuralink does all of that on its own and just does whatever you're thinking. I think that's totally possible. So I think there could very well be a breakthrough here. I don't know how or when or what that looks like, but I see a lot of potential for it.
Do you think we'll ever get to the point where you just think pawn e4 and then your brain just subconsciously doesn't even think about moving the cursor anymore? It just knows that the pawn is in one position and it gets to that position and it can just completely subconsciously do it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll get there.
All right, thank you.
Hi, slightly personal question here, but also, so you said yourself that basically the reason that you are in this wheelchair is due to a spinal injury, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So do you think it's possible that the technology, the Neuralink technology in tandem with like some other implant could possibly be used to circumvent that damaged part of your spine and allow you to move again?
They're already working on it. They already have implanted in a pig an implant in the brain and one in the spinal cord. So what you would do is put an implant, say maybe one or two, one on each side of the brain, put a bunch of threads all through the motor cortex, and then you put one below the level of injury, and they speak to each other, and you bypass the break in the spinal cord.
Exactly, just bypassing the injury.
Yep, it's already happening. I don't know how close they are to that, but I think what I've been telling people is that it'll happen in my lifetime. Optimistically, 10 to 20 years. Someone could have a spinal cord injury, go into the hospital, get this surgery, and walk out the next day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being with us tonight. So every time I walk out of my linear algebra class, I wish my IQ was about 40 points higher. Is there any way for this to increase our cognitive ability, perhaps our memory, any of that sort being worked on?
It is one of the goals. I guess it's a dream of Elon's, to say the least, that this will help augment humans. I think it is a real possibility. I think for now it's a bit sci-fi. All the implant does at this point is read. It doesn't write onto the brain. So in order for it to really increase any sort of IQ and help you in your algebra class, it would need to be able to write onto the brain, I believe, to activate certain areas of the brain like memory. A lot of our actions, a lot of our behaviors mold what the brain looks like and how it grows. So if you can stimulate that without actually taking those actions, then you could potentially augment your intelligence, your memory, all sorts of different things. I think there's a lot of possibility for this in the future. We're not there yet, but I wouldn't give up hope yet.
Hopefully, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably be out of school at that point. But anyway, very interesting. Thank you.
Well, we don't use LLMs in the classroom very often. We want people to develop their own writing styles, their own voices. I don't know how we're going to be able to keep Neuralink out of the classroom.
If some of your students start showing up to school bald, then maybe you'll have some sort of inkling, but that's about it.
Thank you for the talk. I thought it was super cool to see like the actual like movement of the cursor. And it's sort of like, it's not like this smooth, because like you have this sort of like stick drift from like your concentration not being direct. I'm curious, over your course of having the Neuralink, do you think that your concentration or ability to focus has improved as a result of you having to do this, to use a computer, to where you're more present when you're talking to someone, better able to focus on a movie, anything like that?
Not really. I think it's just something else that you do, like anything that you do, multitasking. I wouldn't necessarily say that, well, I guess if you multitask more, maybe some things improve, your attention improves, your ability to listen improves and things like that. But I think most of us have been multitasking most of our lives, and so that sort of has improved to the point that it's probably going to improve. I don't think that using the Neuralink has changed how I am able to focus or anything. If anything, it's made things worse because I am constantly trying to do like 10 things at once now. Before I could, focus on, say watching a movie or watching a TV show. Now that I'm able to do more than I was able to before, I have on like a TV and audiobook on 2x speed. I'm having a conversation. I'm sending text messages. I'm trying to like read manga at the same time, like just like 10 different things all at once. And I think it's because I'm trying to like make up for all the years that I wasn't able to do it. I don't think that's improved my attention or ability to focus at all, though.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your time and for coming to our university.
Thank you.
What is your favorite Civ to play in Civ 6?
Korea.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's...
You need those science bonuses.
It's science. It's all about the science.
They are pretty bonkers.
Yeah, they're the best. Yeah.
Yeah, we played a bit of Civ 6 earlier today. You taught me, is it Red Death? That's the mode it's called?
Yeah.
Red Death mode.
It's so much fun.
I came really close to winning.
Yeah,
I had you cornered.
Yeah.
But if you haven't played Red Death mode, your settler is kind of like your king in chess. You can't lose it. You can't let it die. I had that at the back of the front. And then the AI player came out from the side and took out my settler right when I was about to.
Yeah.
This reminded me of, there was a post of yours on X. X suspended me because they thought I was a bot. Elon reinstated me because I was.
Yeah. It was my first post back on X. I actually was banned from X because they said I was a bot. And then obviously after I got Neuralink and stuff, I had a bit of a direct line to Elon. I was like, hey guys, like get me reinstated. So my first post back obviously was Twitter. Twitter banned me because they thought I was a bot. X reinstated me because I am. So it worked out great.
You know what? The bots took me out. You on one side, the AI on the other.
It worked out great for me.
You were working together, yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. You got, I don't want to say it on camera, but that was rough. You definitely should have won. Yeah.
All right, Noland, long time no see.
Howdy.
Yeah, we've met a few times. I work in research. While you're on stage, you have any like public feature requests for the Link app? so I can snip it and send it to
Oh yeah,
like Natalie.
yeah.
You have a
Let's
request?
see.
You want matrix mode for the bin
Yeah, oh
spikes?
yeah, absolutely. I don't know why. Like I saw that one of the other participants has it. I don't know why y'all didn't give it to me. I wanted to be in the Matrix. You guys know that from my application. I want it to be more customizable. The Link app. It's cool now, like sleek. It's very identifiable, but being able to customize it would be pretty cool. I also can't like minimize it, and that blows. It just kind of sits there, and I have to put stuff like over it and everything. But you know, being able to like change colors, move stuff around, just change it a bit. You can't ask questions, Mom. You're not allowed.
She can ask questions.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
All right.
Can you tell us what Eve means?
Eve. Yeah, so if y'all don't know, I named my implant Eve. She's the best. So I named her Eve for a few different reasons, like 3 or 4, I think. First, I was like, leading up to it, Genevieve has always been like one of my favorite names on the planet. I've always loved it. But I named my bong Genevieve in college. So I couldn't name my implant Genevieve. So I named her Eve. I was like, okay, we're on the eve of something great, so that's cool. Eve from WALL-E, obviously, you got to. And then I said, like Adam and Eve, like God created Adam, he gave him a helper, Eve, and, together they cursed humanity for all time. And I was like, maybe Eve and I will do the same thing. We can find a way.
Hey, so I'm curious, how much would a chip like Eve cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have no idea. The cost of paralysis? I don't know. Don't do that. I was joking. I made a joke a while ago that I wanted Neuralink so bad that I dove in head first. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think it's hilarious. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I know Elon Musk wants to make it at scale, mass producible, be available to everyone. So I don't imagine that it's going to, cost an arm and a leg. Yeah, I know. Unintentionally funny. It's even better. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I don't think that's even a thought in anyone's mind at this point.
Thanks for coming out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I have a somewhat basic question. Just you've insinuated that the Neuralink allows you to do more than other people in some respects. And from what I've seen, it just seems kind of like having a computer mouse in your head. So what more does it allow you to do?
Yeah, so this is something that I think is going to be really interesting in the future with Neuralink, because the cursor control, like that I showed you guys, wasn't great, but it can get really good. It can get like really, really good, to the point where I think that you will have different leagues for like gamers with Neuralink in the future. I think it's either going to be banned or it's going to like everyone's going to have it in order to compete, because there's like latency. If they talk about like major league gamers, take like a game, I don't know, like League of Legends or something. You're moving a cursor around the screen, and there is a delay between when you see something happening and when you decide like you want to do something and you clicking. All of that basically gets eliminated with the Neuralink. I think it's going to be unfair when people have it in the future, for gaming at least, and that's just one little bit. So I think that's a huge thing. And then second, what can I do that others can't do? I can control a computer with my mind. I would say that gives me the ability to do stuff that other people can't do. No, but like seriously, it's like everything that normal people can do on a computer, generally I can do, except for like keyboard stuff. But then just being able to, I don't know, control a computer from 5 feet away. something small like that, being able to control different devices, a computer, a phone, a Nintendo Switch, being able to like do all of these things just through like a simple application. I think that there's just a few things, and there's a lot more to come. I know that it's just going to keep growing. It's still early days. Like I've had it for maybe a year and a half almost. So I think it'll keep getting better too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. All right. That concludes our Q&A. Thank you, everyone.